All right, guys. So this conversation came because my sweet mother sent me a scripture that she wanted me to read. And immediately, I knew that I needed to do it. But more importantly, when I went to look at the scripture and the chapter and everything, it was Isaiah 54, verse 17 that she sent me. I immediately went to go read the whole entire chapter because I like to see things and in context. And so, in reading the whole chapter is such a beautiful conversation that's being had and being shared by the prophet Isaiah to the people of God. And it's like this dialogue where God is talking about, Israel in the form of a woman. Number one, she's being looked upon as a wife who had been in widowhood, but that she wasn't going to be in widowhood for much longer. Talked about what he, in this instance, I'll just say he, but what he intended to do on her behalf. But mind you, it's after certain things happen. So I have the scripture because I want to read it and go through it. I have two different versions. I've got this Bible that a lovely sister of mine allowed for me to use for about a year. I'm so grateful. She's lent it to me on consignment. So I'm going to go to, I'm going to first talk about this. I'm going to go to the verse. A lot of people may be very familiar with this verse. Now, this has Hebrew words in it that I may not say right. Here is 54 and 17. Sorry, we got to get to it first. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall prove wrong. And this is the inheritance of the servants of the Most High, and their righteousness for me, declares the Most High God. So, basically, what I'm noticing about so many of us when we get into a faith and when we're seeking God, many of us desire to have the benefits of this deity. We just, and this doesn't have to be, it doesn't matter what faith or religion you are in, no matter what deity and path you're choosing to go with because it resonates with your spirit. Many of us have a really tough time with getting in alignment with whatever belief system we decide to choose, right? So, we have this thing where we feel like we can just come in just as we are and do whatever. And I'm not saying that initially that's not the case. I did mention in the other video, I do think that there's a period of grace because each deity is aware that maybe depending on your lineage and where you're coming from, that you know nothing about it, or you know very little about how to come towards them and what to do and what they expect. So you have to educate yourself. But I do think that the issue tends to be that a lot of people don't really educate themselves about the faith that they're going into, the deities that they're connecting themselves to. So this is what I'm intending on doing. And my focus is the God of Israel. My focus is the God of Scripture. So a lot of people want the promises of this God. A lot of people desire to have the benefits, like I said, of this God, but they don't necessarily want to do what this God requires. And that was even the problem back in the day with the people, like the whole biological group of people whom this particular deity was expressed to, whom this deity went into covenant with. This was their issue as well. They wanted to get the benefits, and they did agree to a certain extent. They went into contract and into covenant with this God and then continued to break the covenant over and over. And as a direct result of that, their lives were altered and changed. And these same people are still in these states of, those changes that aren't necessarily pretty. So let's go ahead and go to verse 1. It says, sing, O barren one. So this is like a woman who has not had a child, which used to be a reproach, by the way. And to certain degrees, it's still looked upon as if it's like a whole shame or it's a problem if a woman who is married or is of a marriageable age has not conceived and had a child. People might look and be like, what's going on? What's wrong? Is there anything wrong? Boom. Sing, O barren one, you who did not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not been in labor. For the children of the deserted one are more than the children of the married one, said the Most High God. Enlarge the place of your tent. Like, go ahead and get ready. Make your house bigger. So let's go back to verse 1. It's already saying, so the reason why this is a big deal is because if you were not a person who, if you were a woman who had not born children and you were married, it was a huge shame. Even though I'm sure, just like in now, there are people who would understand if you hadn't born or if it had taken a long time to conceive. You know, I'm sure. But there was also those people who would make remarks, you know, be wondering and snickering or having these judgments and these opinions about you. Okay. There were people who may act a little bit more haughty because I've got children, you don't. Okay. So that's one thing. It would make women sad. It would be something that brought such shame and remorse and just grief upon women because, you know, they wanted to be able to bear children. For a while, it almost seemed like this was, you know, this is what you're here for. So if I'm made to bear children, if like that's part of my superpower, right? If I'm not able to produce and to do that, then it made people feel like less than. It could have. It didn't do that probably for everybody, but for many women, they suffered, you know, depression and grief because they could not produce. So it's something for this prophet to literally be saying, oh no, rejoice, be happy, baby, because let me give you a new way of looking at this. Let me give you a new way of looking at this for those who are having a hard time conceiving. Listen, you have even more children than those ladies who are married and have conceived. You have more. So what a new, beautiful way to see that, right? So it says, enlarge the place of your tent and let them stretch out the curtains of your dwellings and spare no expense, spare nothing. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. For you shall break forth to the right and to the left, and your seed inherit the nations and make the deserted cities inhabited. So where this woman who in essence belonged to God and God is her husband, where she wasn't having children, and if she did have them, because let me tell you, there are multiple levels of barrenness, right? You could have kids, conceive, carry the term, and you always have stillborns. You could have seeds, but then something happens where they die, or you just can't carry the term. It's so many different things, ways to be barren, but you know, keep in mind, this is not a literal, even though it could be applied that way. It's not just literal. This is energetic. This is an analogy as well to Israel, who once had children, and up until this point, all of the children had been dispersed abroad. They had been sent away. A lot of them were killed because of their disobedience, and a lot of them just went off into captivity. So now you don't have no kids. Where are your kids? You're left alone. You're left desolate. Do not fear. This is verse 4. Do not fear, for you shall not be put to shame, nor hurt. You shall not be humiliated. For the shame of your youth you shall forget, and not remember the reproach of your widowhood anymore. So boom, just as tough as it used to be when you were by yourself, and you could take this literally too, but I'm talking more about the figurative or the analogy way. Jerusalem was a woman who had lost all of her children. That was a shame. It was a reproach. It was grievous. It was heartbreaking. She was sad. And not only that, when a woman became a widow, her children were who were supposed to take care of her. So the nation, the actual land, as well as the group of people, they weren't even able to keep the cities. They weren't able to keep them up. There was nobody there, period. There was no life there. And Isaiah is prophesying and saying, get excited, get ready, because now you're going to have kids. Like, you're going to have so many kids. You got to enlarge. And it's such a beautiful day for me to be talking about this on a Thursday, which is a day associated with the planet of Jupiter, which is a planet that is connected to expansion and growth and blessings. Moving on. For your maker is your husband. The Lord Almighty of hosts is his name. And the set apart one of Israel, or the Holy One of Yisrael, is your Redeemer. He is called the Elohim of the earth. For the Most High has called you like a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, like a wife of youth. You were refused, declares your Elohim. For a little while I have forsaken you, but with great compassion I shall gather you. In an overflow of wrath I did hide my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting loving commitment. So let me just say this. Let's bring this to some modern day terms. So in her youth, there were some things that this woman may have done that didn't sit right with her husband. To make it connected to the nation of people, us breaking our covenant by simply looking into other faith practices and going with that. That's what some people did. For other people, it was just that they were wicked people. They would twist the Torah and make it fit their own agendas. They would literally be mean and hateful towards their children, their wives. They were doing things like committing adultery. They were doing things like taking women's husbands and murdering them to cover up their shit. It was like wicked things that was happening. And so these people, a lot of them died and a lot were sent off into different captivities. As a result of this is what made the whole nation like barren. They weren't good anymore. They weren't high in the land. They weren't respected anymore. They weren't walking in the knowledge of God anymore, the light. So now they were in this darkness, hidden from not just themselves, but from all the other nations. And now these same people who used to be blessed, these same people who used to be highly spoken of, now they are reproached. They're talked about. Yeah. In the same vein, this woman was turned away from her husband and he didn't want her no more. And she was bad-mouthed, I'm sure. And then because he was mad, he was angry. He didn't want to be with her no more. You won't do what I say, so I don't want no parts of you type shit. Or you're not getting what I'm trying to do or say for you. So I'm not dealing with you. And he acted mean. He acted hateful. He acted maybe as if there was no love here anymore. That was hurtful. But now he says, but with everlasting loving commitment, I shall have compassion on you. So now I'm going to turn back towards you. Like my heart is going back towards you. And the same way that I dished you, basically, I'm going to have this love and this commitment to you. Says your Redeemer, like redeeming. I'm coming back for you. I'm coming back towards you. We're getting back together. For this is the waters of Noah to me. In that I have sworn that the waters of Noah would never again cover the earth. So have I sworn not to be mad with you, nor to rebuke you. For though the mountains be removed and the hills be shaken, my loving commitment is not removed from you. So this earth, things can change because of earthquakes and other natural disasters, but the love that God has, if we're going to do literal, the love that this husband has for his wife, if we're doing the analogy like I really do want to do, the love that God has for his chosen people. Many things on the earth may change, and they are, but the love that God has for its people isn't changing. It's like, it's still strong. It's still there. He haven't taken it away totally. Nor is my covenant of peace shaken, said the Most High, who has compassion on you. Oh, you afflicted one, tossed with storm and not comforted. See, I am setting your stones in antimony. I need to look up that word. And shall lay your foundations with sapphires. And shall make your battlements of rubies, your gates of crystals, and all your walls of precious stones. Like, I'm finna set you up. You're about to be beautiful again. And all your children taught by the Most High, and the peace of your children great. In righteousness you shall be established, far from oppression, for you shall not fear. And far from ruin, for it does not come near you. So, mind you, these promises are absolutely beautiful because they are, in fact, what has been happening to the people of Israel up until this point. They have been sent out. It's as if they don't even exist. It's as if they're dead. They are not in their land. There is no peace amongst these people. And the scripture is saying that they're going to be taught of God, the Most High God. When I think of that, that makes me think that there will be a spirit in the earth that's going to cause people to desire to know, how can I please this God of my forefathers? How can I please this God of the earth? And they're going to look and they're going to find out. Because I don't know if people have noticed, but over and over again in the scripture, the reason why the children of Israel kept getting in trouble is because they simply kept breaking the Torah. They continued to do just like everything that the God of Israel had instructed them against doing. Which, by the way, a lot of the other nations were doing. So it seemed like, oh, whoa, what about them? You know. But I digress. So God is saying that God is going to teach the children of this widowed, barren woman. The Spirit of God is going to enter into them and they're going to desire to know this information. And it's what's going to make them good, great again. And because of that, everything that was spoken over them as a curse will be reversed. For you shall not fear, and far from ruin, for it does not come near you. 15, see, they shall indeed assemble. Now, this verse is talking about all the other nations are going to come against y'all. All the other nations are going to be doing all that they're supposed to be doing to, like, try to eradicate these people. Listen to what the words say. They shall indeed assemble, but not because of me. Like, God didn't give this authority of these people to come against the children of God. Whoever shall assemble against you falls for your sake. See, I myself have created the blacksmith who blows the coals in the fire, who brings forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. 17, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment, you shall prove wrong. And this is the inheritance of my servants. I don't know if you guys know your word, but I think some of you who are going to come across this video will. And the servants of God is the whole nation of Israel. That's what we were literally called to do, serve God the whole time. So those who shall be, alive in this time that Isaiah is prophesying about, what Isaiah is talking about is, these people are going to assemble against you. They're going to take their crafty counsel and they're going to try to come against you. But guess what's going to happen? They're going to fall for your sake. It's like all the schemes that they'll be deploying to try to kill us off, they're going to fall by. And not to mention that he's saying, hey, I created them. So I already know what they're going to do. I know how they're going to try to do it. And guess what? And I created them for this. I created them for destruction. They will be bringing destruction upon the earth. However, they also will be destroyed. And my people, my children, my wife's children, no weapon that's going to be formed against them is going to prosper. And I feel like a part of this information is you're going to know who God's children are because they're going to be the ones still left when everything else falls. Now, does that look like a certain group of people? I happen to believe it does look like a certain group of people, but I also feel like there are going to, just like back in the day, there will be others who may not necessarily look like what I happen to believe the children of Israel at one point in time did look like, but they will be still children, I guess, by way of their mentality and their heart for the people of God. And that's how they'll be saved, okay, and redeemed as well. I could be wrong about that, but, there's nothing new under the sun. What has been done before will be done again. So that's that with that. That is this conversation. I think verse 14 was the thing that made me really want to come and talk about this whole concept of understanding that we need to follow the protocol of whatever deity we choose to associate ourselves with, because this is how we either get our blessings or our consequences. So without further ado, I want to encourage anybody who says that they believe in the God of Israel to understand that God has rules. And that God said that if you obeyed certain rules, you were going to be blessed, which would be the opposite of oppression and being in fear and in ruin and a reproach. So if we are in fact experiencing those things, it's probably as a clear sign that we have not yet returned to the principles, to the religion, if you will, of that God. And like I describe religion as the governance of that God. There's no way around it. Like if you go into someone's house, that person is the governor of their home. And whatever those rules are in that home is what you should follow, both as a sign of respect, okay? As well as, if you want to enjoy my company, if you seek to enjoy whatever benefits that come along from being connected to me in this home, you do as we say. Like, for example, if a person, requests that people do not smoke, or you take off your shoes before you enter, as a respect of the governor of that house, that's what you do. And if you don't want to do that, that means you do not want to commune with this particular governor. It's not rocket science. So if you guys say that you want to know the God of this earth, or you want to know the God of Israel, you've got to see what rules this God has put in place. Look at the benefits, look at the curses. If there's something that you want to be down with and you say, okay, I can get with this, I can understand this, cool. Y'all gonna commune. But really consider these things, because Torah isn't done. Whether Christ is a fictitious being or if he's real, that same person or entity or deity said that until heaven and earth passes away, that literally not the smallest part of Torah was going to pass. And it makes sense when you understand that the whole world is built up on Torah, which is the instructions of God. Torah is a Hebrew word that means instructions, actions, directives. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. Delegations, laws. And it's crazy that people get upset with God, that God has laws, but all the little mini gods, like humans like us and politicians and congressmen and women, They make laws. Police officers who are ambassadors of the government enforce said laws. But the God that so-called created everything, people want to be like, oh no, that God, no, those laws no longer exist. They were nailed to the cross when Christ came. Well, why would Christ do away with the laws of its father? Doesn't make sense. Not to me anyway. A lot of people might argue that, oh, well, the law caused death. No, the law didn't cause death. People and their desires to, honestly, I don't know what other way to say it, but their evil desires and and that being stronger than what Torah suggests is the proper way to live, that is what caused death. Because when I see Torah, I see a God who cared about everything. Nature first, because that was created first, and then us. And they taught us how to interact with nature and how to interact with us. And they told us that we'd be blessed. Nature was to take care of us. We are to take care of nature. It's supposed to be a give and take type of thing. So anybody that would demonize Torah or the instructions of God, that's weird. That's weird to me. So I digress. Peace, love, light, and darkness, which all work together to bring balance and harmony first within ourselves and then within our world. I want to encourage you guys to look into this and maybe look at it from a different perspective. The Torah was not given to make anything hard for people. In fact, it was given as a foundation for us to really understand how God works and for us to understand and move in a way that is best for us. First as individuals and then as a collective. So let me know your thoughts. It's cool. Even if you disagree. Boop, boop. Bye guys. Share this video. Bye.